I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm normally not this choked up, but...
Born in Cincinnati, Ohio, Brian William Pillman overcame a childhood filled with unmanageable challenges, 30 surgeries before the age of 3 to save his voice. But that wasn't enough to silence him. A star on the football field, he tackled life with ferocious energy, becoming a defensive powerhouse at Miami University. His dreams of gridiron glory burned bright until his injuries knocked him off course. Yet for Brian Pillman, every setback was just a setup for the next act.
The events that have taken place in my life.
The frozen fields of the Canadian Football League to the unforgiving dungeons of Calgary, Pillman transformed himself into a wrestling sensation. In Stampede Wrestling, he soared as Flying Brian, dazzling audiences with aerial mastery. Teaming with Bruce Hart, he became a champion. But Pillman wasn't content to just climb the ranks. He wanted to rewrite the script.
Just in the past 8 weeks have really changed the future of my life.
Then came the big leagues, World Championship Wrestling. Under the bright lights, became the inaugural light heavyweight champion. In matches that electrified fans, when he teamed up with stunning Steve Austin to form the Hollywood Blondes, the duo's brash charisma won them tag team gold, yet success painted a target on their backs.
From a point not knowing if I was going to live or not, to standing here.
Delusioned with WCW's creative decisions, Pillman took matters into his own hands. He embraced chaos, debuting the loose cannon persona, a character so unhinged that even insiders couldn't tell what was real. Manipulating WCW into firing him, Pillman sparked a bidding war, pitting WCW, ECW, and the WWF against each other. In Extreme Championship Wrestling, Pillman's short but unforgettable stint left audiences questioning his every move. And then the big leagues came calling. Pillman signed with the World Wrestling Federation, bringing his mind games to the grandest stage. But just as he prepared to conquer a new frontier, tragedy struck. A near-fatal car accident shattered his ankle.
Signing a contract with the World Wrestling Federation, it's a dream come true.
Grounded from the high-flying moves that made him famous, Pillman reinvented himself. His mic skills became his weapon, and his charisma became his arsenal. Aligning with Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation, Pillman stepped into some of the most iconic feuds of the 1990s.
And it's an opportunity that very few athletes get.
The controversial segment from 1996 with Stone Cold Steve Austin blurred the lines between fiction and reality, shocking audiences and cementing his status as the ultimate provocateur. Every promo, every match, every confrontation became his masterclass in unpredictability. Brian Pillman wasn't just a wrestler. He was a revolution, an athlete, a performer, a master manipulator who dared to challenge the norms of an industry rooted in control. This is the story of Brian Pillman, the loose cannon.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Last night, yesterday afternoon, Brian Pillman was found dead in a hotel room in Bloomington, Minnesota. He had competed the night before in St. Paul. This tragic occurrence, obviously, has shocked all of us here in the World Wrestling Federation.
Brian William Pillman was born on May 22, 1962 in Cincinnati, Ohio. His early years were marked by challenges and adversities that shaped the tenacity and determination he displayed later in life. Pillman's childhood was a mix of struggles, resilience, and an early display of his fighting spirit. Brian Pillman's father, William Pillman, passed away from a heart attack when Brian was only 3 months old. This tragedy left his mother, Mary Pillman, to raise him and his siblings alone. The absence of his father during his formative years created financial and emotional challenges for the family, but Mary was determined to provide her children with as much stability as possible. Despite their difficulties, Mary emphasized the importance of hard work and perseverance. Brian would later credit his mother's strength as a significant influence on his own relentless attitude toward life and success. Brian faced severe health challenges from a young age. He was diagnosed with a throat polyps, a condition that caused recurring issues with his breathing and required him to undergo over 30 surgeries before the age of 3. These surgeries were both life-saving and painful, but they left young Brian with a raspy voice that would become one of his distinctive features later in life. These early medical struggles forged a resilience in Pillman that would become a defining trait throughout his life. Despite his health problems, he maintained a fighting spirit, refusing to let his condition limit him. Pillman's school years were characterized by a mix of academic challenges and athletic success. While he struggled in some areas academically, he excelled in sports, where he found a natural outlet for his energy and determination. His athletics became a cornerstone of his identity and opened doors to opportunities that would later define his career. He attended Norwood High School in Cincinnati, where he became a standout athlete. He particularly excelled in football, earning recognition for his talent and his toughness on the field. His early success in sports provided him with a sense of purpose and direction, helping him channel his competitive nature into something productive. Growing up in Cincinnati, Brian found support and encouragement from his community and mentors who recognized his potential. Coaches and family friends played a crucial role in his development, offering guidance and opportunities that allowed him to thrive despite the challenges he faced at home and with his health. Pillman's early years were a testament to his ability to perseverance in the face of hardship, setting the foundation for the charismatic and fearless persona that fans came to know as the Loose Cannon. As mentioned, Brian attended Norwood High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, where he quickly distinguished himself as a talented and tough football player. Known for his aggression and determination, he was a standout on the field, earning respect from teammates and coaches alike. His performance as a high school athlete laid the groundwork for his future in football. Brian continued his football career at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, where he played as a defensive tackle for the Miami Redhawks. Despite his relatively small stature for the position, listed at 5'10" and around 230 pounds, his determination, speed, and intelligence on the field made him a formidable player. During his time at Miami, Pillman earned All-American honors, a testament to his skill and impact on the field. His aggressive style and work ethic stood out, and he became known for playing with intensity and passion, often outperforming larger opponents. His performance at the college level earned him recognition from scouts and opened the door to opportunities in professional football. His professional football journey began when he joined the Cincinnati Bengals as an undrafted free agent in the early 1980s. Despite the challenges of making an NFL roster as an undrafted player, he impressed the coaching staff with his tenacity and willingness to play special team roles. His time with the Bengals was relatively short, but he left an impression as a hardworking and fearless player. After his stint in the NFL, he transitioned to the Canadian Football League, where he played for the Calgary Stampeders. His experience in the CFL helped him refine his athletic skills and adapt to new challenges, further showcasing his versatility and determination. Brian Pillman met Stu Hart through his connection to Calgary. He was trained by Stu, the patriarch of the legendary Hart family, in the infamous Hart Dungeon. The wrestling training began in 1986 after the conclusion of his football career. Stu Hart was known for his rigorous and often brutal training methods, emphasizing technical wrestling and submission holds. The dungeon produced many wrestling greats, and Brian's time there helped him develop a strong foundation in grappling and in-ring psychology. His background in football and his natural athleticism made him a quick learner, and his time in the dungeon honed his skills, preparing him for his professional debut later that year. He formed the tag team Bad Company with Bruce Hart, capturing the Stampede International Tag Team Championship twice during their tenure. Their first victory came in April 1987. His final appearance for Stampede Wrestling was on August 13th, where he teamed with Bruce Hart and Jason the Terrible to secure a win against the Great Gama, Maka Singh, and Johnny Smith. Bruce Hart, during an interview with the Hannibal TV, in between burps, would comment, "I had just come off, blowing my knee out, just tore my ACL, so I'd been out for about 8 months, and there was this old friend of mine who was on the Calgary Stampeders named Stu Laird, and I used to see him in my brother-in-law's BJ's gym downtown. He told me he had a guy who I think was the starting linebacker on the Stampeders at the time who was wanting to get into wrestling. Back in those days, if you had a football player wanting to get into wrestling, it was usually after they had been cut, were at the end of the line, or was off season. But it was right, I think second or third game into the season. Pillman was like the starting outside linebacker for the Stampeders. And so anyway, I told Stu bring him down. And I had met with him at BJ's gym, and he was all like gung-ho to get into the wrestling, and essentially walked away from being the starting linebacker on the Stampeders to, being a rookie wrestler. He understood the ring psychology pretty good, and he was really, kind of big on, he had a bit of a personality to him, and he was pretty dedicated. He would also state, Pillman took off pretty quick. He personally was tailor-made for the business. In fact, he was the guy who taught Steve Austin most of his stuff. And if Pillman hadn't been derailed by the car accident, which ultimately I think led to taking the painkillers and, ultimately killed him, but he was sort of cutting edge, guy that people would probably be talking about today in the same vein as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Steve Austin. Brian transitioning from Stampede to a larger platform was a significant move. And he would explain, after my time in Stampede, I was eager to expand my horizons. In 1989, I had the opportunity to wrestle in Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was an invaluable experience. Shortly thereafter, I was approached by World Championship Wrestling. They recognized my aerial style and athleticism, and I felt it was the right platform to showcase my skills to a broader audience. Pillman's WCW debut was nothing short of spectacular. On February 20th, 1989, at the Chi-Town Rumble, demonstrating his high flying and technical expertise, Brian secured a victory, marking the beginning of his influential tenure in WCW. He would later state, Stampede was crucial. It honed my resilience and versatility. The diverse competition and the mentorship from the Hart family instilled me in a strong foundation. The grounding was essential as I navigated the larger arenas and broader storylines in WCW. The intensity and passion I cultivated in Calgary began my driving force on the international stage. Brian Pillman's journey from the heart of Calgary's wrestling scene to the international spotlight of WCW exemplifies the dedication and adaptability required to excel in professional wrestling. His early experiences laid the groundwork for a career that would leave an indelible mark in the industry. Following his impactful debut in World Championship Wrestling, Brian Pillman, known for his high flying as Flying Brian, embarked on a journey that would see him evolve into one of professional wrestling's most mysterious figures. His early years in WCW were marked by notable achievements, including capturing the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship twice and forming the dynamic tag team, the Hollywood Blondes, with stunning Steve Austin. Despite their popularity, internal politics led to the team's premature dissolution, leaving Pillman searching for a new direction. After the breakup of the Hollywood Blondes, Brian would state, Post-Hollywood Blondes, I found myself at a crossroads. The wrestling landscape was evolving, and I realized I needed to reinvent myself to stay relevant. I began experimenting with my character, pushing the boundaries of traditional wrestling personas. This journey culminated in the birth of the Loose Cannon, a character that blurred the lines between reality and performance, keeping everyone, including my peers, on their toes. His transformation into the Loose Cannon became evident in late 1995. He adopted an unpredictable and edgy demeanor, often engaging in unscripted antics that left the audience and fellow wrestlers questioning his sanity. A pivotal moment occurred on January 23, 1996, during the Clash of Champions, when Pillman, in a match against Eddie Guerrero, unexpectedly grabbed commentator Bobby Heenan by the collar. Unaware of Pillman's intentions and concerned for his well-being due to his prior neck injuries, Heenan reacted with a four-letter word on live television, exemplifying Pillman's commitment to his unpredictable character. His actions during that period were unprecedented. He would later state, My goal was to make the audience question what was real and what was part of the show. Wrestling had become somewhat predictable, and I wanted to inject a sense of chaos and authenticity. By keeping everyone guessing, I aimed to create a buzz that transcended the ring. Pillman's commitment to his loose cannon persona reached a zenith during the strap match against Kevin Sullivan at Super Brawl in February of 1996. In a shocking turn, Pillman abruptly ended the match by declaring, "I respect you, Booker Man," directly referencing Sullivan's role as a booker, a term typically kept behind the curtain. The act of breaking kayfabe was unheard of at this time and left both fans and industry insiders in disbelief. Breaking kayfabe so blatantly was a bold move. Later he would state, "I wanted to shatter the fourth wall and challenge the audience's perceptions. By exposing the inner workings of the industry, I aimed to create a sense of realism that had been missing. It was a calculated risk, but I believed it was necessary to push the envelope." Following the Super Brawl incident, Pillman was released from the WCW, a move that many believe was part of an elaborate storyline. He made a surprise appearance at Extreme Championship Wrestling CyberSlam on February 1996, where he delivered a scathing promo, further solidifying his loose cannon reputation. However, in April of 1996, a severe car accident resulted in a shattered ankle, forcing him to change his in-ring style and casting uncertainty over his wrestling future. He would later comment, "The accident was a significant setback, but it didn't deter me. I focused on refining my character, ensuring I remained relevant. My plan was to return stronger, proving that the loose cannon couldn't be contained by any obstacle." Brian Pillman's evolution from Flying Brian to the loose cannon showcased his dedication to his craft and his willingness to challenge the status quo. His innovative approach left an indelible mark on professional wrestling, influenced future generations to embrace authenticity and unpredictability in their performances. The infamous moment occurred during one of Pillman's earliest appearances in ECW. After cutting a scathing promo targeting both the fans and the ECW locker room, Pillman declared that he was not bound by any promotion or authority. He then escalated the situation by threatening to urinate in the middle of the ring as an act of defiance. In a move designed to shock and provoke, Pillman began unbuckling his pants, pretending to urinate on the ring mat. While he didn't actually follow through, the mere suggestions were enough to send the ECW crowd into a frenzy. Fans, known for their passionate and often vulgar reactions, erupted with a mix of cheers, boos, and chants, fully buying into Pillman's unhinged persona. ECW security and wrestlers stormed into the ring to stop Pillman, further adding to the chaos and blurring the lines between performance and reality. The entire sequence was chaotic, unpredictable, and completely in line with the loose cannon character Pillman had cultivated. Perhaps the most infamous incident occurred during a 1996 segment on Monday Night Raw involving Steve Austin. Pillman, recovering from an ankle injury, was filmed at home holding a gun, seemingly prepared to shoot Austin as he broke into his house. The home invasion storyline sparked outrage from fans and media, with many feeling it crossed the line of good taste. The segment was heavily criticized for its violent implications and received backlash from parent organizations and media outlets. Pillman cleverly worked behind the scenes to negotiate his release from WCW under the guise of it being part of his loose cannon character. He intended to return to WCW at a higher pay rate, but instead using the opportunity to sign with WWF, securing a lucrative deal. This manipulation of contract negotiations was unprecedented at the time and shocked the wrestling industry. Brian Pillman's contract negotiations with World Championship Wrestling in 1996 became one of the most infamous and groundbreaking stories in wrestling history, showcasing his business savvy and willingness to blur the lines between reality and kayfabe. Pillman had developed his loose cannon persona to make himself the most unpredictable and talked about wrestler in the industry. By constantly acting erratic, both on screen and backstage, he created an aura where no one, not even wrestling executives, could determine if he was playing a character or genuinely losing his grip on reality. This persona became the cornerstone of his contract negotiations with WCW. As part of his strategy, Pillman approached WCW President Eric Bischoff with a bold idea. He would be fired from WCW to add credibility to his loose cannon character. The plan was for him to stage his departure, work for other promotions like ECW, and eventually return to WCW as an even bigger star. To make the angle seem legitimate, Pillman convinced Bischoff to draft an actual termination letter and release him from his WCW contract. The belief was that this move would protect kayfabe and cement the idea that Pillman was genuinely out of control. Unbeknownst to Bischoff, Pillman had no intentions of returning to WCW. Once released, he immediately began negotiating with other promotions, including the WWF. By obtaining his release, Pillman had essentially worked the workers, using the very storyline meant to enhance his WCW character as leverage to increase his value in the wrestling industry. He used his brief stint in ECW to further solidify his reputation as a wildcard, cutting controversial promos and creating buzz around his name. During this time, he also met with WWF's Vince McMahon and negotiated a lucrative deal, becoming one of the first wrestlers to secure a guaranteed contract in the WWF, which was an unusual arrangement at the time. Pillman's manipulation of his WCW contract was unprecedented and revealed vulnerabilities in how wrestling promotions handled contracts and talent. His actions forced promotions to rethink how they structured agreements and dealt with wrestlers who blurred the line between kayfabe and reality. Eric Bischoff later admitted that he had been outmaneuvered by Pillman, describing the situation as a rare instance where a wrestler successfully worked the promotion. Pillman's move also showcased his keen understanding of wrestling's evolving business, particularly during the Monday Night Wars era, when competition between WCW and WWF was fierce. Pillman's manipulation of his WCW contract is often cited as one of the most ingenious and audacious moves in wrestling history. It cemented his legacy as a pioneer in using real-life tactics to elevate his career while exposing cracks in the wrestling industry's traditional practices. While risky, his gamble paid off, setting a new precedent for how wrestlers could take control of their narratives and careers. Brian Pillman's struggles with substance abuse and his untimely death at the age of 35 are among the most tragic aspects of his life and career. These issues not only impacted his health and performance, but also left a lasting impact on the wrestling industry, exposing the toll the profession can take on its stars. Pillman faced a series of injuries throughout his career, including a devastating car accident in 1996 that left his ankle shattered and required extensive reconstructive surgery. The accident forced him to drastically alter his wrestling style, transitioning from a high-flying performer to a more grounded, brawling approach. To cope with the constant pain from his injuries, Pillman reportedly relied on painkillers and other substances, a common issue among wrestlers of his era who faced grueling schedules and physical demands. His addiction to painkillers was compounded by the intense pressures of the wrestling business and the personal stressors in his life, creating a dangerous cycle that he struggled to break. Pillman's physical condition visibly deteriorated during his final years in WWF. His reconstructed ankle severely limited his mobility, and he was no longer able to perform at the level that had once made him a star. Despite his health issues, Pillman continued to wrestle, driven by his passion for the business and the need to provide for his family. On October 5, 1997, Brian Pillman was found dead in his hotel room in Bloomington, Minnesota. The cause of death was determined to be a heart attack, attributed to undiagnosed heart disease, a condition that had also claimed the lives of his father and grandfather at young ages. Although the heart condition was the primary cause, many believe Pillman's substance abuse and the physical and mental toll of wrestling had worsened his health issues. His death served as a stark reminder of the risks wrestlers face both inside and outside the ring. One of the most controversial aspects of Pillman's death was the WWF's decision to conduct a live interview with his widow, Melanie Pillman, on Monday Night Raw the day after his passing. The segment, led by Vince McMahon, was widely criticized as exploitive and insensitive, with many feeling that Melanie was placed in an incredibly vulnerable position for the sake of television ratings. The interview remains a controversial moment in wrestling history, sparking debate over the ethical boundaries of wrestling storytelling and the treatment of performers' families. Pillman's death highlighted the darker side of professional wrestling, including the physical toll of injuries, the pressure of maintaining an intense schedule, the lack of adequate support systems for performers dealing with substance abuse and mental issues. His passing contributed to a growing awareness of these problems within the industry. In subsequent years, WWF implemented wellness policies and began offering rehabilitation programs to past and present wrestlers dealing with substance abuse issues. While these measures were far from perfect, they marked a shift in how the industry addressed the well-being of its talent. Brian Pillman's untimely death left an indelible mark on the wrestling world. He was remembered not only for his groundbreaking loose cannon persona, but also as a tragic figure whose potential was cut short by circumstances both within and beyond his control. His struggles in passing serve as a cautionary tale about the harsh realities of professional wrestling, inspiring efforts to create a safer and more supportive environment for performers in the years that followed. That was the story of Brian Pillman.